You guys have been just awesome. Just awesome. Sophie Strong. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes. If there's anybody else that wants to pop on. I needed to think about this one for a little bit. We feel your prayers, y'all. We do. Yeah, it's Dad. Missed that one. I've cried for 6 hours too. I feel you. Y'all are fierce, seriously. I feel it. I feel it. We feel it. If you knew Sophie the way I do, you know that she'd feel it too. Be upset, be frustrated. I know, Murph. I know. I know. I've heard so many stories too. I've heard so many stories. A child should have to be afraid of going to their parents' house. God be with you guys, and prayers for y'all. Thank you, Norma. You're right. Nobody should be afraid like that. Feel you, Jerry. Thank you, guys. All right. What's the magic number? When do we go? These comments, y'all, are powerful. God is answering in a mighty way. I feel it too. I truly do. All right, we'll give it a minute. I don't want to leave anybody out. I figured the 12 hours are up. You know, obviously, if you don't want to be involved with this at this point, and yeah. So we don't know where the kids are at. We still don't know where the kids are at. And I'm really pissed off about it. If I'm being super honest, I'm really, really pissed off about it. I don't think it's fair. And we spent a lot of days now thinking and trying to figure out how to solve for it. But the system's broken. It's absolutely broken. And I know it's broken because I know that what we've done is for the better good of the children. And there's no doubt. And this is what's making me so mad. And these are the stories that I've been hearing too. And God, they're awful. I'm hearing stories of parents who, that for whatever reason, they end up in some sort of CPS debacle and they lose their children. Or because of a misunderstanding. It seems to me that there's a person here that we're not listening to, and that's the child. And I don't understand it. I don't get it. Because I heard it too. And it was so loud and it was so clear that there was no doubt in my mind that there was a problem. Despite what she said, despite what may or may not have happened, I guess I'm getting really angry about not listening to children. And the more that we got into this process, the more that we realized that there was this really big disconnect and that my daughter wasn't heard. Not heard from the people who are put in the positions to protect their lives and to make sure that they end up in places that are going to keep their well-being at the center. You're right, there are some great organizations out there doing work. Honestly, I didn't know about all of them. I feel like this has been a trial by fire. It's been an outpouring of support, and I think if Sophie knew, if she knew what was up, I don't know. I keep on having this visual in my mind because Sophie is Sophie's an interesting child. She was my first child. And I remember when she was born, she didn't breathe for about 30 seconds. And at least I couldn't hear it. And honestly, it scared me to death. And then all of a sudden I heard this like raspy, like, and then she got loud and she announced herself. And I held her and I looked her in the eyes, and it was one of these moments. It was so magical. And I don't know. I mean, any of you have had children. It doesn't matter if you're male or female or father, mother, grandmother. Like, everybody knows. If you've had a child, there's that relationship that forms in an instant. It's a love. It's a love that doesn't exist in any other form, I don't think, until you experience that. And, you know, being my first and being my baby girl, it was an amazing experience. And as Sophie got a little bit older, and she started to communicate, I remember sitting in awe and experiencing what it was to be a father for the first time with this little being. And she's like my little doppelganger, but like a little girl. And it's been awesome. It's just been awesome. And there's been some tough paths. Divorce was tough. And having to kind of accustom to what that was like was tough. And there have been issues, no doubt about it. But yeah, she's amazing. So I'm gonna tell you a couple things about Sophie if you don't know her well, because she's just amazing. Sophie is a songwriter. She's written like, I don't know, 25 songs, which are cool. I posted a couple of them. She's an old soul. She tends to look right through people, and one of the coolest things about Sophie is she's fearless. And she's so fearless, in fact, that she inspires me to step up more. And so when I started seeing fear in my daughter's eyes, I knew there was a problem. And when she started showing signs that seemed like PTSD, I knew there was a problem. But nobody would listen. Nobody would listen. And I tried to trust the system. I did. I think a lot of you guys have probably been through this experience where you reach out, you just feel it, right? You have a connection with your child. You reach out, it's maybe ignored or maybe they got a queso that's huge. I get it. There's probably some wonderful people that work in these capacities too, and I've met a number of them. But it can be pretty frustrating if the people put in those roles don't follow through and really pay attention. Sophie started getting afraid. It was in May. We know something was very off because she'd sit out here. We live out on some land in Seguin, Texas, and she would have this reaction, and it was like PTSD. And she would recoil back, and she would say she was afraid somebody's running up to her with a knife. And it was strange. It wasn't like Sophie, but it wasn't clear enough yet if something was going on. Ooh, is that a cicada? Might get a cicada. Ooh. We get these cicadas out here, and they can sing. Hopefully it's yeah, there it went. Those are some of the kind of early warning signs that were going on, and we, you know, my wife and I, Courtney and I, we didn't quite know how to deal with it all at first, but we did our best to talk through it with her, and a lot of it didn't make sense because she's holding back. Suddenly she was holding back. So, and there were the warning signs too. You know, there was some disconnection that occurred. Well, she wasn't able to communicate with us directly anymore, and well, that cicada's getting it tonight. And finally she started having the conversation over summer that she was testing these boundary questions, and I think this is really important because this is something that I learned and that Courtney learned, and it was that listen. And so she was asking about if it's okay to put a hand on her shoulder. That was one of the first, and then she said, "Is it okay if the hand's here?" And it was interesting because I realized really quickly that she was trying to understand what acceptable was, when in reality she should have been sitting there and known that, like, her body is her body, and so I went straight up into this conversation with her. So it's about body sovereignty, and for young girls, I think, you know, it's young boys too, but for young girls, I think that it's a really important conversation. That their bodies are their bodies, and if it's not something that's taught early enough, I think that they can get pretty confused by it. And hats off to my wife. Courtney has talked about this stuff for quite some time, but she's comfortable enough talking about it. So it started with that, and then it started with there was a person that she was uncomfortable around, and so we listened, and we let her tell her story. And then she started talking about having these fuzzy dreams. And the fuzzy dreams, they weren't the type of fuzzy dreams that a child should be having. And they were super big red flags. And I'm telling you guys this because this was all very new for me. I'm sitting here calm now, but in reality, I would hear these stories from her, and yeah, in the back of my mind, I'm like, that couldn't happen to her. It just couldn't happen to her. And on the other hand, she was telling us stories that they're not something that a little girl should know about. You know, about she one that was frequent was that she would talk about having your footsteps coming in, and then crinkles, and then and she even reenacted this with Courtney, but it was, you know, something goes on her face, and then black, she'd say, and then it's a fuzzy dream, and we like, well, what's a fuzzy dream? She said, well, it's like looking at the middle of your nose. I'm like, oh. So look, I guess my point is, those fuzzy dreams, once the embarrassment started going away, she started getting more comfortable. And as she got more comfortable, I think she got more empowered. And it's weird how this system works because, and I learned this in one of the many lawyers that we've gone through. There's a term in, I guess, these civil courts. It's called an excited utterance. I think that's the word. Excited utterance, is that what it is? See, we've gotten to a place where we needed to document really well, and we have. We've documented a lot of what's occurred in this process. But if a child doesn't have an outcry that is frantic or crying or super emotional, we actually got told at one point that even though we tried to document along the way some of the things that were being said, that what we had wasn't, needed something more exciting, more compelling to give the court. I'm like, well, I don't know. I think the fact that she mentioned sitting on someone's penis is probably enough. And the fact that she felt comfortable enough being here and sharing that story should have been enough. But what nobody seemed to realize is that you end up in a situation where the child, I mean, hell, she I don't know how many times she told us that somebody's going to kill her. She talked about people killing her every single day. She was frightened. We recognized it. And we talked about it with the authorities. But nobody did anything about it. And what I find quite ironic about today is that I had to sit there in a courtroom and get berated by people worried about death threats and how they need to be in protective custody, all the while my daughter's worried about her health and safety. Nobody does anything. Oh, she's lying. Oh, she's not saying it excited enough. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is not the way it should be. And she got a little jaded. I'll be honest with you. So we ended up in a scenario where finally, after going to multiple doctors over the course of summer, yeah, used against me. No, it's supposed to be. I hope other parents just. This has been an awful process, and the system didn't serve the way that we had really hoped that it would. And we ended up being put into awkward positions where we were getting promises from the organizations that she was going to be protected and everybody was going to step up, and then nobody showed up. Okay, so we followed the protocol. We did what we were asked to do, and Sophie was scared. She didn't want to talk to strangers. She'd been told that there were, and look, this goes straight out to Frisco PD because I want you all to know, I don't have a beef with police officers. I actually wanted to be a police officer at one point in my life, and I think that there are some men and women in blue that do phenomenal work in this country. But I also think that there's a really big disconnect between the civil and criminal system, which leaves them almost unable to do much in certain spots. So, and that's sad. It really is sad. So we went through this other channel, dealt with PDs, but there's no book that you get for this type of thing before it starts. But you're dealing with the criminal aspects of what's going on. Then there's the civil aspects of what's going on, and you're going into a forensic interview, and the kids are supposed to be comfortable. And suddenly a child who maybe took months to speak up in your own home, they're judged by an hour that they have to get comfortable with an interviewer and disclose everything. And in the case of Sophie, she didn't feel comfortable and she wasn't feeling safe enough to actually talk. And what happened after that actually was super sad. Got word, I think within a day, that, oh, the criminal case has been, go ahead and close it, and no outcries, so let's just go ahead and send her back to where she says bad things are happening. And yeah, sorry, Dad. It's just not fair. It just wasn't fair. It wasn't fair to her because she was still speaking and she was still saying there was a problem. And I guess my point of this is that I don't feel like we've gotten to a place with this where we got a good solution yet, but there may be maybe an opportunity to learn from this. Because if there's not something that's really, really great that comes out of all of this, I don't understand the point of my children being somewhere else and me suddenly not being able to even know where they're at. So, that's one thing. And here's the other thing. Years ago, I had a dear friend. I won't say her name because I don't want to violate her trust. But she told me about a story when she was raped when she was younger. And one of the things she said to me that stuck with me, and it sticks with me right now, and actually it led in large part to the decision to not be the empty chair and to not quit talking about this, is that she said that the thing that hurt her the most in that process is that no one stood up for her. No one stood up for her. And suddenly she found herself alone. And the perpetrator just got to keep walking around, and nobody quite believed her because it was so uncomfortable. Nobody actually wanted to talk about it. And it stuck with me. That conversation really, really stuck with me because she's a dear, dear friend. And I could tell because she was crying. This is something that stuck with her all the way into her late 30s when we were having the discussion. And when all this stuff started to happen, and one of the only ways that we could cope with the pain that we were feeling after what happened at the Frisco PD and this transition that took place was the stories that were coming out from people that finally felt empowered enough because they heard her voice to speak up and say, you know what, I know that cry. And that cry, that's the cry. And that we need to listen. And then I started hearing people say, no one spoke up for me, Sophie, I'm going to speak up for you. And it just started getting louder and louder and louder. And I swear, within a couple days, it is literally like, we feel so surrounded by love, y'all. Like, I can't even tell you how grateful we are. Courtney and I, my mom and dad, Jeannie and John, awesome folks, just celebrated their 44th year married, right? You guys aren't tired of each other yet? That's good. And of course, we have one between us, Phoenix. But yeah, there's an empty hole here right now. And I'll tell you, tonight, these legal games, this stuff that happens in these courtrooms, these closed door discussions where people, have been friends for years, or maybe have their husband went to school with somebody, or they go out to dinner with Judge and all that stuff. I don't feel like that's the type of setting where I can walk into and have a real objective conversation. And the funniest thing that was missing, not funny at all, actually, never mind, it's not funny. What was missing today in the very short amount of time that I was there was any discussion about the welfare of the children. Yeah, nothing. It was all about me talking and how terrible that was. And I was going to put them in harm's way. It's unbelievable. Well, maybe if somebody would have listened a little bit earlier, they wouldn't be in that situation because they wouldn't be staying with the people that were being accused in the first place. And if you listen to the child, I think everything gets simpler. Well, I'm gonna take a breath. I've super tried to stay calm through this. There's so much emotion that comes with seeing your daughter get torn away, saying, help me, daddy, screaming it. And nobody stops and says, well, maybe she's actually telling the truth and there's a problem on the other end. This just defies logic. I don't want my daughter to have to grow up and have more stories about people walking into her room at night, or couples that are doing strange things, or some weird ass uncle up in another state that's having her sit on his dick. This isn't right. It's not right. We need to listen to them. We need to listen to them early. We need to do something about it. Because our children are suffering and this country is crumbling because we're not paying attention to our children. It's a shame. These are our babies. These are our future. And we're going to let them fall into this trap? So, no, I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to be quiet because if I'm quiet now, guess what? It's the same damn thing that happened over at Frisco PD. I accepted the threat right there in front of my daughter that I'd be going to jail. And, that's a tough one to look your daughter in the eyes about, right? She doesn't want me going to jail. I don't necessarily wake up and say, hey, I want to go to jail. But these threats that are being thrown around, like this attempt to remove my First Amendment rights to speak, I think it's ridiculous. And I have something to say. My daughter is not here. As far as I'm concerned, my daughter is in jail, and so are my sons, because nobody is telling us where they're at. And these legal hoops that are run through. I mean, I know a lot of you, because I've heard a lot of stories. You've gone through this stuff. It doesn't make sense. I didn't go to law school. I'll probably be able to explain some stuff about anthropology a little bit better, but I didn't go to law school. I don't know how all your emotions work. And I don't know why I have to spend $30,000 over the course of a month to defend myself when my daughter's clearly having I want to go somewhere. It's ridiculous. It drained us completely. And I know a lot of people that it's done the same thing to. And I get it. I get it. Like there's a system. I get it, but it's not working. It's not working. We need to hold that system accountable in a whole different way. Because it's not fair that families that are fighting for their kids have to drain every damn penny out to do something about it. And God forbid you find yourself on the wrong side of that coin. And shit. Today, in the little time I was there, so I didn't even hear the end of the hearing. And we live in the countryside. And now I'm expected to be on a Zoom tool. We get too much wind out here and we lose internet. So phone starts having problems in the middle of the discussions, and I didn't get to finish it. But I didn't agree to any sort of gag order. I wasn't willing to not talk about it, because that's the absolute last thing I'd want to do. Because my daughter's not here, and my sons aren't here. And they left to a place that's unknown. And now I don't know who's with them, because suddenly I don't have any rights to know anything, because lawyers are going in back rooms and slipping in TROs on false premise because somebody has more money to fight a battle. Well, guess what? We could have saved a lot of money, all of us collectively, if we just step back a little bit and let's start listening to kids. They're smart. Hell, kids are smarter than us most of the time. They don't come into it with all these egotistical expectations about who and what they're supposed to be. And as adults, it's not our job to tell them who they're supposed to be. We're supposed to allow them to be. And I think that, if that's fostered correctly and your child's telling you something's wrong, damn it, listen. And as far as the system is concerned, I wish the same. Listen. So look, I'm not an angry person. I'm not a person that wants to go out there and raise hell and do all. I like peace, love. People get along. I don't like conflict. Courtrooms are just always uncomfortable. I don't like that stuff. But I don't know. Something's in me. I know it's you guys, and it's my daughter. She's right there, and she's screaming still, and doesn't stop. And every single time it's played, and another person is waking up to that feeling they had, and they're like, "Holy shit! I have an opportunity to maybe step up for her a bit." It's just powerful, y'all. It really is. And I've connected on a deep level with a number of people in this, week time frame. It's absolutely, God is good. God's good. Even though this sucks, God's good. There's something great coming out of this. I know it. I have to believe that. And I know it'll figure itself out in time. But yeah. It's a funny world we live in. It's a really, really weird world, y'all. All wearing masks and not seeing each other's smiles anymore and not holding our kids high. We're all hating on each other, finding problems just because of the color of our skin or what religions we want to believe in. And God, we're missing it. We're just missing it. And I don't know. Maybe it's not like this. That like people come together and just start realizing like there's something greater here at play. There's something much greater at play. And it's gonna take an army of people, an army of big-hearted, courageous, loving people to go out in this world who are willing to put a foot down and say enough's enough. And look, somebody always say, guardians of the children, you guys are amazing. And gals, I'm sorry. Absolutely amazing. We, through this process, we didn't just counter something that I don't even know how much I should talk about. Probably get in trouble for everything anyways, but there were elements of stories that came through that really just, they weren't right. There were multiple people, different places, borders, and all this stuff. And God damn, I can't believe that like there's kids like right now, in the back of vehicles or in somebody's car that don't know where their parents are at, and some evil-minded, greedy, disgusting person is about to drop them off. Drop them off to make some money on the life of innocence. It's disgusting. It's disgusting that we've let our society get this way. And I think we're all seeing it too. And God damn it, I know we're living it. And I just really, some of these programs that have come out and the awareness that's starting to take place, we've been, I guess, collectively dealing with 2020 has been like the weirdest year ever. And, the COVID stuff happens and everybody's freaking out. And heck, we left where we were in the city. We came out and lived on the land with my family because we didn't want to get split up. So that's been strange. Economy's going nuts. People don't have their jobs. Kids are staying home, which incidentally, I've learned in this process, it's not a good time for kids. So, and I'm feeling like it leaves me super unsettled. Some of these stories I've heard, but the forensic interview lines now are so long that it's hard to even just get in to have a child checked out. That should tell you something. Like, we're in a bad place, and kids aren't going to school, so talk to. Well, if they don't have teachers to talk to or outside adults, well, what happens? You end up with kids getting taken advantage of or ending up in an abusive situation, and nobody's doing anything about it. And God, it just defies logic. And there should be like a sheriff's department for children. And they show up, make sure those kids are good, they check on them regularly. Like, there's got to be a different way we can do this. Because you know what? Sophie would have had an outlet sooner if it had been like that. So, all right. So I spent a lot of the day trying to figure out what we do now with this. I can't just go around like knocking down. No, you know, you can't go knocking down doors searching for people. You can get loud. And let me just tell you, all two have showed up to the peaceful gatherings with signs for Sophie. Like, thank you guys. Like, seriously, amazing, amazing. It filled our hearts in ways that you will not even know, to see that strangers, but not strangers, but brothers and sisters, like, you all are out there and you're with us, and it was absolutely amazing. Like, there's ribbons now. The ribbons, the purple and red ribbons, they're their favorite colors, and people are making these cool face masks and shirts, and I'm like, wow, wow. And when this is all done, I had to come to an agreement with myself tonight, because, look, I'm not a criminal. I don't have that type of background. I don't like getting in trouble. That's not my jam. But I knew I might piss some people off by going live tonight. But I also saw that there was, nearly 60,000 people. They were on this group, and they were rallying, and it's an opportunity. Like it's God showing up in some way. And we got to do something with this. There's in everything that's bad that ever happens, that's ever happened in my life, there's always been something like really beautiful or great that's come afterwards. And it hurts like hell, and don't get me wrong, I want justice for Sophie. I want justice for Sophie. But I also refuse to fall into the pit of believing that everything is bad, because it's not. It's not. And just look your babies in the eyes. You know, because, like, tonight my alarm went off at 6:55 every day. You know, I'm one of those, typically, you know, I'm in that situation where I get to FaceTime with them 30 minutes, 3 times a week, and it went off, and I broke down. It was awful. It was awful, because I realized that, you know, somebody on the other side got paid thousands of dollars to get a TRO slipped in. It's ridiculous. And I just hope that through this process that we find some way to take this momentum and do something great with it. Let's do something awesome with it. Awesome with it for kids. Let's get the word out. Let's get the word out. Let's push it further. I mean, I don't know, it's got to make sense somehow. It's got to make sense that all these beautiful, wonderful people are coming together and actually trying to do something. And look, for me personally, yes, it's my daughter. I have a hard time. If I fall into it too much, then I just can't even talk. But I think that I see there's grace showing up here somewhere. And there are people coming together, and they're rallying, and they're meeting each other, and they're saying, hey, I do this, and you do that. And now we got an advocacy group, and we got a protection group, and, you know, we got a counseling service. I mean, my Lord, there are so many awesome organizations out there that are doing just wonderful work for children. you know, like when you end up in this situation, you don't know where to find it all. So, and you know, maybe somebody's doing, but it could be better. Make this easier for parents that are in bad situations to get the resources quickly. And you know, like there's no guidebook that I could go pick up when my daughter starts talking about, you know, being molested. I didn't know how to deal with that. Nobody, there's not a class in school I got to go through and say, well, listen, if someday this happens, this is how you're gonna handle it. So you pretty much cry in the darkness, and then you show back up and you try to be strong. So listen, I want to say thank you to everybody out there who shared a story. And I understand, you know, there's lots of opinions, whether like the incidents that happened with Sophie should be shared or not. I've had some really deep conversations with some people about it. But I want to be clear about something. Sophie wasn't being listened to. And before this all went down, she made it perfectly clear. She's like, don't stop, Daddy. Tell everybody you can. She's so freaking courageous. And she got up there and she's so damn proud. This is what I am so proud of my daughter right now, that she was willing to step up and speak up and demand her sovereignty. It's her body. She's her own person. And if she's old enough to say that she can make her own choices, I think she's close enough that we should probably listen to what they have to say. And you know, we got to do this for kids. We got to encourage them, take pride in themselves, love themselves. Like I don't get it. I don't get it, y'all. Maybe that's the Reiki stuff. You know? So we'll do some Reiki 1 today. Okay? Because I'm sure y'all have heard some stories about me, because they like to go around and say that I'm crazy. And I've gotten that a lot, because that goes on a lot. But actually, what it is I started getting interested in healing. And one of those practices was Reiki, which is accepted in hospitals now. But I want to share the first step of Reiki with y'all, because I think it's something that should be shared. And it's something that Sophie and I shared together too. Because it was important that she understand that her father was willing to do something and say something that would empower her to do that, which is that I love myself. And I love myself enough to sit with my daughter and teach her the value of loving herself too. And my sons, that it's okay that they proclaim their love and their own sovereignty and their love for themselves. And when they get closer to that within themselves, I feel like it creates an opportunity for them. You know, because kids are going through some bad stuff, and if we could get them just a little bit closer to the ability to say, hey, I'm not perfect, but I'm gonna try to love myself right now. It's a good thing. And for all you too. For all you survivors, you've blown my mind this week. Blown my mind. I think a whole trajectory has changed. And I am so inspired by y'all, and I'm so absolutely grateful. Absolutely grateful for what you've done. So, all right. So before the phone call got cut off, there's a couple things that just ethically I feel like it's fair that I bring up. I don't want this to turn into something where people are getting death threats. I don't. And I don't know where it's happened or who it's happened from. And certainly I don't look at that as a constructive way to go about things. But please, as a community, can we like self-monitor each other? Can we make sure that can we make sure that we hold each other accountable, not to bring it there? This is about unity and love. We can recognize that there's evil. We know there's evil in this world, but if we lose our focus and we fall into that side of things, it detracts. It detracts, and hold people accountable. But you don't need to put yourself in a terrible situation or go out there and cause harm. You know, there is such thing as you know, sometimes there are disconnects, and sometimes there's an opportunity for people to learn from things. So please, for the sake of the group, no death threats. No violence. This is about, you know, started as something about Sophie. I feel like it's quickly merging into something about just, you know, it's about children. It's about safety and them. And violence should only be used as a last resort. And it's, if we teach our children otherwise, I think we put ourselves in a bad place. So let's inspire them by keeping the message positive. And you know, I certainly wouldn't want to hurt her opportunity to speak up and go in the direction that she chooses to go. Because, you know, we create an environment that was toxic. Okay. So that's one thing I just want to share real quick. And then I wrote things. Oh, you hit 40, you start needing glasses, I swear. So misinformation. That's the other thing. There's a lot of stuff being shared, and there's a lot of personal testimonials. And you're right, like, this is about Sophie, and damn it, we need to figure out what's going on with it, and we need to find them. But I feel like there's a way to apply pressure differently. And part of that is raising the volume and involving people that are gonna help us do this right. And so, but I have seen through this process too that, you know, there have been times where they're like, oh yeah, we heard a couple out, you know, you got your kids back, or they're extracted from a location. So we're gonna try really hard, and some of you have totally stepped up and volunteered to help us with this. But I want to make sure we have some moderators on this channel, so that, you know, posts can get out there. But we want to, you know, we don't want to spread misinformation. So that I feel like that's a really important thing, and we've gone back and forth because we want it to be a free place for people to share. But at the same time, I don't want, you know, part of what's going on to get lost in falsehoods. Your glasses. No, I'm good. I'm good. So I want to talk about accountability a little bit, because this is one thing that I'm pretty serious about. So I feel like through this process, and one of the reasons that we have documented as thoroughly as we have, is that it seemed like at every turn we would see that there was a problem, and then we'd turn around to a legal situation and be like, can you prove it? And so we document, and we document a lot. And I would highly recommend, if you ever get into a situation, you document a lot too. There are people who have been involved with this process who have straight up lied. And there are people who have shown their true colors in this process. Who honestly, they should be accountable. Truly. Like, if I find that there's a a police officer that's encouraging abuse, yeah, I'm liable to talk about it. Because it's wrong. Yeah, I'm not saying incite violence. None of that. That's not what's up, but I'm gonna say something. And if I catch you doing it, I'm gonna talk about it. So, for all those involved in this process, I would suggest that you be honest. Be super honest. Because we're gonna document every last bit. And I'm telling you right now, if you cause for my daughter to have to go back to a toxic environment, I will expose you every single day of the week. So, and remember, children are smart. Children are smart. And when you call them liars long enough, or when you call them actresses long enough, they start taking safeguards. Just like Sophie did. When her mom was walked into the office where she wasn't supposed to be, right after I told her she'd be safe in there. So, yeah, we should be honest in court paperwork for all you attorneys out there that are involved in this profession. I highly start getting honest. And for all the people that are out there and parents that are getting involved with this, hold them accountable. They should be. They're professionals. They take an oath. And if they're not, report them to the bar. Because it's the only way that system is going to be cleaned up. And it's one of the reasons that Sophie's in the situation she's in. So I think this is serious. I am sick and tired of dishonesty in the court systems and the family court systems. I spent years being torn apart in those systems just because somebody has more money. You've got to be kidding me. You absolutely have to be kidding me. You know what it is? People can walk into a family court setting and just lie their asses off. How is this possible? And cost you, meanwhile, tens of thousands of dollars. It's absolutely ridiculous. So, look, hold people accountable. Mutual accountability. It's important. Keep everybody honest. There's some super, super exciting things happening right now, y'all. And I don't know if I don't know if I'm at liberty to talk about them. There's a lot that will be exposed very soon, put it that way. And because of all you people showing up, doing the awesome stuff that you have done, man, we have met some incredible people that are doing things. I mean, I swear, they have these roles, and they're like mystery people. And they show up and they're like, yeah, guess what we do? We save. I talked to a guy the other day. I mean, my life's decent. It's not, we have a small business, and I do a lot of work on the land with my family and stuff. It's a nice life. Yeah. But, oh my God, I met some people that like jump out of airplanes into villages and they save children that are enslaved. And I'm like, wow, I've been wasting some days. I got to figure out how to do more of this stuff. It's amazing. It's amazing. To you people out there who have dedicated your lives to going out and saving people in human trafficking situations, I salute you. You are to be commended. You are our heroes. I swear it has been absolutely inspiring. So thank you for doing that, for all the people that you have touched and impacted. So, to the comment about I should be out looking for my daughter instead of on Facebook, to be perfectly clear, I'm not in a position to do so because of this legal system that has decided to strip me of my parental rights. I have to go through another hearing and talk about, I don't know, probably get bombarded again for a while. To the people who are wondering about my lawyer situation, I got fired at the beginning of the hearing this morning because it seems that everybody's afraid that they're going to get death threats if they're involved with me now, which it's not me. I'm not telling anybody to go do that, and I'm definitely encouraging you not to do death threats because it could hurt this situation with Sophie. But yeah, it's silliness. It really is. So yeah, there was a motion I got at 11 o'clock last night, and I was supposed to be in court at 8:30. Got in for a little bit, phone quit working. I don't even know what happened. I didn't agree to what was going on, but I don't even know what the end of that turned out to be, because the lawyer walked off, because, I don't know. It's just gotten weird. So, yeah, we are aligning with counsel now, and so that's going to be taken care of, I believe. But I think that there's going to be some other people involved too legally that are going to help us understand things from a different level. And I hope that it creates some resources for people to understand how to do these things. Because certainly, like I said, nobody wakes up and thinks that they're going to be in a situation like this. So for the sake of Sophie and everything that's going on right now, I think at the very least, as we were patient through this process, we hope to bring some people together and maybe create some better resources. So yeah, that's what's up. It's nuts. I don't even think I've processed what's supposed to come in the next part of this week, or the fact that they're challenging, now my ability to see my children ever again. I'm like, what planet are we living on here? So, no, they have not stripped me of my parental rights yet, but I think I maybe made somebody angry, and they're putting that in place, or they're trying to. So, yeah, look, I mean, at this point, it's in God's hands. And it's hard to think about that when I'm thinking about my daughter's not here. It's tough. I can't think about it all at the same time. So just not give you a reason to pull them from her. Does the drug test? Oh, the drug test. Yeah, that was fun. All right, long story short, weird scenario happens. Kids are out of state. Sophie hops on, tells me a story about a dude in a truck who shows up with like these foamy salt rocks, gets forced to lick them, which is weird in itself. I mean, I'm speeding up, but then the boys lick him, and then Jack looks like he's absolutely tripping out. He's got big old dilated eyes, slap in his face, and of course everything I say people play down in courts because I'm exaggerating, but that's what was happening. He didn't look right. So fast forward, we hadn't seen him for like 66 days, bring him in, get him a hair follicle test, and he ends up popping positive for cocaine and marijuana. I'm like, well, that's not right. So call up CPS, follow the protocol. I was told, you got to be calm, take it sequentially, don't get too emotional. I'm like, well, he's got cocaine and marijuana. And they're like, okay, it's a priority 1, wait there. So I waited there. I said, I'll wait as long as I have to. 7 hours pass, nobody calls. Awesome. I tell court, I'm like, look, babe, I don't know what to do. I guess we just go up there and get him. We go all the way up to another, to Frisco, and then are greeted by a supervisor and CPS telling us that, whoa, you can go to try to pick up your kids, but it's not your visitation weekend. I'm like, excuse me? My child tested positive for drugs, cocaine, and marijuana, and this dude was so condescending. He ended up trying to tell us that the individual is in the household, didn't have a criminal record. We were looking at the mugshots of the person right in front of us. So, yeah, it was weird. And then, before you knew it, started pointing fingers at us. So great. And I get to go through, get hair follicle tests, fine. It was just so much strange. I'm glad I documented everything, because it'll probably come out all very soon. Because this has been a situation that's gone on since, over a year. But spring break is when it got really bad, so we started documenting. Anyway, that's it, I think. I haven't slept much lately. I don't know all the answers to this situation. I guess I didn't finish that story, so that's gonna leave it weird. Finish so it doesn't sound straight. So he pops positive. We go to Frisco. CBS tells us that they already told the other party. I'm like, well, that's good. I asked for my kids to be taken out. They didn't do it. I called the police. They show up. Lies are exchanged. And yeah, so we ended up driving back to where we came from, and kids stayed there. And let's see, I think Jack didn't get tested until day after I did. So awesome. Anyways, this is the type of scenario that, look, I'm sure there's many of you that have ended up in a weird scenario and you don't know how to deal with it either. They're trying to shut down the feed? Probably. But I think that this is kind of what I guess I was getting to. I think that in the exchanging of scenarios and in the reflection of what's worked and what hasn't worked, there may be an opportunity for us to help each other, because we didn't really know what to do. So, and I think that had this existed, it would have been a great opportunity. So, if there's parents out there that you hear of that are having a tough time, bring them in, and we're going to create some little side groups in here of resources, because there have been such an outpouring that there's an opportunity to organize here. And we should do it, because this is a real issue in this country right now, and how we're dealing with children, not just in sex trafficking, but also in other issues that are showing up. Bullying is huge. It's a massive issue. We're losing kids way faster than we should. So let's figure it out. And the talent's here. I mean, that's it, right? Bring the right talent to the right place, and you can solve really big issues. And when Sophie's back, and she's gonna be, I can't wait for her to see what you guys have done. And just want to let you know one more time that the reason I decided to keep this going is because the last time I was threatened with jail and bowed down, my daughter ended up being hauled off into a car, screaming her head off, asking if anybody even cared about her. Only to end up back in a place where her room was stripped bare, only a mattress. It took away her nightlight. Her nightlight. The girl's terrified of the dark. It's abusive. And then took away her phone, so she couldn't talk to me either. And we got to hear it because she called. So yeah, that was it's terrible, and it's awful that she was punished for bad behavior because she spoke up. This isn't complicated. Okay, this isn't a complicated situation. This is a situation where the child wasn't listened to. If there's nothing else that I guess I share today, it's just that let's listen to our kids. Let's listen to our kids. And for you officials that are out there that are involved in this stuff, like, let's make that a priority. Let's make that a bullet point for your meeting tomorrow. Like, how do we listen to kids better? Okay? And let's go get your awesome psychologists in there, and they'll tell you. Kids are smart. Kids are honest. And believe it or not, they don't lie about sex abuse very often because it's not something they should even be thinking about. So for all you out there that are like, oh, no, listen. If a child tells you that there's something going on with them, listen to them, please. And don't be afraid to reach out to the community, because it sucks. And but we're all here now, and thanks to Sophie, really. So again, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and when I'll make a deal. I'll be willing to maybe not talk and speak up as soon as my children are back, because if I stop anytime sooner, they're not going to be here. And I thank you guys for speaking up too. You're a blessing in our lives. We appreciate you. Stand with Sophie. Let's get her back. Let's make this right. Let's learn from this. Let's be better. I love you guys. Seriously, you're like family now. You've gotten us through a really, really tricky time. You're getting us through a tricky time. So thank you. Much love. Good night, y'all.